He looked at the woman standing in the first-class priority lane, scanned her casual hoodie and messy bun, and sneered. "Excuse me," he barked, shoving past her with his pilot's cap tucked under his arm. "The cleaning crew entrance is around the back. This line is for people who actually pay my salary." The gate agent laughed. The bystanders stared. The woman said nothing. She just adjusted her glasses and stepped back, letting him pass. Captain Garrett Sterling thought he was just putting a disrespectful passenger in her place. He had no idea that the woman he just humiliated, Alana Mercer, wasn't just a passenger. She was the newly appointed CEO of the airline, and she wasn't just flying home. She was flying to headquarters to decide who to fire, and Captain Sterling had just volunteered to be first on the list. The fluorescent lights of Chicago O'Hare's Terminal 3 hummed with a frequency that usually induced migraines. But for Alana Mercer, it was simply the sound of another Tuesday. Alana adjusted the strap of her leather tote bag, a deceptively simple bag that cost more than most mid-sized sedans, and checked the time on her phone. 07:15 a.m. She was exhausted. The merger negotiations between her former equity firm and Stratton Airways had lasted 4 grueling months, culminating in a signature at 3 a.m. the previous night. Technically, as of 4 hours ago, Alana Mercer was the new Chief Executive Officer of Stratton Airways. The press release wasn't going out until tomorrow morning. To the world, she was still just a ghost. A black woman in her mid-30s, wearing a nondescript grey hoodie, leggings and running shoes, looking like a tired graduate student, rather than the woman who now controlled a fleet of 300 aircraft. She wanted it this way. She needed to see the airline from the ground up before she took the glass office on the top floor. She wanted to see the cracks in the foundation. She approached the gate K-12 counter for Flight 492 to London. It was a flagship route, the pride of Stratton Airways. The boarding area was chaotic, a sea of suits and families jostling for position. Alana bypassed the crowded economy queue and stepped quietly into the empty lane marked Platinum and First Class Priority. She stood there for a moment, enjoying the brief stillness, fishing her passport from her bag. "Excuse me." The voice was deep, authoritative, and laced with an impatience that felt like a physical shove. Alana turned. Looming over her was a man who looked like he had been cast in a movie as the pilot. He was tall, silver-haired, with a jawline that could cut glass and a tan that spoke of long layovers in the Caribbean. His uniform was immaculate, 4 gold stripes on the epaulets, the Stratton wings gleaming on his chest. Captain Garrett Sterling. His name tag was polished to a mirror shine. He didn't look at her face. He looked at her shoulder, then at the space behind her. I said, "Excuse me," he repeated, louder this time. He held a coffee cup in one hand and his flight bag in the other. "You're blocking the thoroughfare." "I'm just waiting to board," Alana said, her voice calm, raspy from lack of sleep. "The agent hasn't called the lane yet." Garrett let out a sharp, incredulous breath. He stepped closer, invading her personal space, using his height to intimidate. He looked down at her attire, the hoodie, the lack of makeup, the hair tied back in a rushed bun. "Miss," Garrett said, dropping his voice to a patronizing faux whisper. "This is the priority lane. It's for first-class passengers and flight crew only. Economy boarding is Group 4, that huge line over there." He pointed a manicured finger toward the chaotic mass of people 20 feet away. "Go wait your turn like everyone else." Alana didn't move. She held her ground, her expression unreadable. "I know where the line is. I'm in the right place." "Look!" Garrett snapped, his facade of professionalism cracking. He checked his heavy Breitling watch. "I am the captain of this aircraft. I have pre-flight checks to complete, and I do not have time to argue with confused passengers trying to skip the line. Move." I'm not confused, Alana said, her eyes locking onto his. And I'm not moving until the agent calls me forward. Garrett scoffed, shaking his head. He turned to the 2 junior flight attendants trailing behind him, a young woman named Sarah and a man named David. They both looked uncomfortable, averting their eyes. Unbelievable, Garrett muttered to them, loud enough for Alana to hear. The entitlement these days. People think they can just waltz in anywhere because they don't want to wait. He turned back to Alana, his face hardening. Listen to me, sweetheart. I don't care who you think you are. If you don't step out of this lane right now, I'm going to have security escort you to the back of the line. Actually, if you give me any more attitude, you won't be flying on my plane at all. Alana felt a cold spike of anger in her chest, but she tamped it down. This was data. This was exactly what she was here to see. Culture rot, the analysts had called it. Arrogance at the executive and senior levels. Here it was, staring her in the face. Is there a problem here? The gate agent, a woman named Brenda, with frizzy hair and a tired expression, finally looked up from her computer. She saw the captain and immediately straightened up, flashing a deferential smile. Captain Sterling, good morning, Brenda chirped. Morning, Brenda, Garrett said, his charm turning on like a light switch. I'm just trying to get to the jetway, but this individual seems to think the priority lane is a waiting area for Group 4. Brenda's eyes snapped to Alana. Her smile vanished instantly. She didn't ask for a ticket. She didn't check the manifest. She just saw the captain's annoyance and the black woman in the hoodie. Ma'am, Brenda said, her voice sharp and nasal. You need to step aside. You are blocking the flight crew. I have a first-class ticket, Alana said calmly, reaching out to show her boarding pass. Brenda didn't even look at the phone screen Alana was holding out. Ma'am, please don't lie. Economy boarding hasn't started. I need you to step out of the platinum lane now, or I will call airport police. Garrett smirked. It was a small, tight victory smile. See? Back of the line, sweetheart. Let the professionals work. Alana looked from Brenda to Garrett. She saw the absolute certainty in their eyes, the certainty that she did not belong in their world. She realized that showing them the ticket now wouldn't teach them anything. They needed to learn the hard way. Fine, Alana said softly. She stepped out of the lane. Thank you, Garrett said, dripping with sarcasm. He brushed past her, his shoulder checking hers slightly, hard enough to knock her tote bag against her leg. Next time, learn to read the signs. He swept through the gate door, his flight attendants scurrying after him. As he punched the code into the jetway door, Alana heard him laugh. Can you believe that? Probably a non-rev friend of a baggage handler. The audacity. Alana stood alone by the podium. Brenda was already typing furiously, ignoring her. Alana pulled out her phone. She didn't open her boarding pass. Instead, she opened a secure messaging app labeled Stratton Executive Transition Team. She typed a single message. Pull the personnel file for Captain Garrett Sterling. Employee ID from his tag. Flag for immediate review. Then she looked at Brenda. I'll wait, Alana said, but you're going to want to check my ticket eventually. The humiliation didn't end with Captain Sterling's departure. It lingered in the air, a heavy fog that Alana had to stand in while the rest of the boarding area watched. A businessman in a grey suit, standing at the front of the legitimate first-class line, leaned over. He had a kind face, but a pitying tone. Don't worry about it, miss. They're strict about these things. Maybe you can try for an upgrade at the kiosk. He assumed she was broke. He assumed she was confused. He was trying to be nice, but it was just another layer of the same assumption. You don't belong here. I appreciate that, Alana said tightly, but I'm fine. 10 minutes passed. the boarding process began. "We would like to invite our first class and platinum status members to board at this time," Brenda announced over the PA system. The businessman in the grey suit moved forward. Alana stepped back into the line, directly behind him. Brenda scanned the man's ticket, wished him a pleasant flight, and then looked up. When she saw Alana again, her jaw actually dropped. "Ma'am!" Brenda practically shouted. The line behind Alana stopped. "I told you, this is not for you. You are holding up the line. I am not going to ask you again." "And I told you," Alana said, her voice dropping an octave, becoming steel. "Scan the ticket." She thrust her phone directly under the scanner before Brenda could block it. Beep. A green light flashed on the console. Brenda froze. She stared at the screen. The computer didn't just register a first-class ticket. It flashed a specific code. VIP01 à la Corp Exec. Do not upgrade. Must board. It was a code usually reserved for board members or high-ranking government officials. Brenda's face drained of color. She looked at the screen, then at Alana's hoodie, then back at the screen. Her hands started to tremble slightly. I, Brenda stammered. The arrogance evaporated, replaced by a terrified confusion. "Ms. Mercer?" "That's right," Alana said. She didn't smile. She didn't yell. She just stared at Brenda with the intensity of a prosecutor. "Is there a problem with my seat, or can I board the plane that I paid for?" "No, no problem. No problem at all," Brenda said, her voice squeaking. I'm so sorry, Miss Mercer. I didn't realize, with the hood and..." "The hood?" Alana raised an eyebrow. "Does the hood invalidate the ticket, Brenda?" "No, ma'am. Brenda was drowning. She looked around for help, but there was none. "Please, enjoy your flight. Thank you for flying, Stratton." Alana took her phone back. "Brenda, what is your last name?" It's Miller, ma'am." "Miller, all right." Alana tapped a note into her phone. "We'll talk about protocol later. Right now, I have a plane to catch." Alana walked down the jetway. Her heart was pounding, not from fear, but from a simmering rage she was trying to convert into cold, hard strategy. As she reached the door of the aircraft, the sensory experience shifted. The smell of recycled air and coffee, the polite smiles of the cabin crew. Standing at the cockpit door, leaning against the frame and chatting with the purser, was Captain Garrett Sterling. He was laughing, holding a fresh cup of coffee. "So I told him," Garrett was saying, recounting a story. "If you want to fly the plane, buy your own simulator. Until then, sit down and shut up." He chuckled, taking a sip. Then he looked up and saw Alana entering the aircraft. His smile faltered, but didn't disappear. It morphed into a look of annoyed surprise. He clearly expected her to have been kicked out by security. "Well, well," Garrett said, loud enough for the business-class cabin to hear. "Looks like someone managed to talk their way past the gate agent. Incredible what you can get away with if you cry loud enough." The purser, a strict-looking woman named Nancy, looked confused. "Captain." "Nothing, Nancy," Garrett said, waving a hand dismissively at Alana. "Just a passenger who thinks the rules don't apply to her. Keep an eye on her. I don't want any trouble in the cabin once we're wheels up." Alana stopped. She was 2 feet away from him. This was the moment. She could end him right here. She could pull out her corporate ID, declare herself CEO, and have him removed from the flight. It would be satisfying. It would be instant karma. But Alana Mercer played the long game. If she fired him now, the flight would be cancelled. 200 people would miss their connections. The airline would lose money, and Garrett Sterling would just be a victim of a crazy boss. No, She wanted him to hang himself. She wanted to see exactly how deep the rot went. She wanted to see how he flew, how he treated his crew when he thought no one of importance was watching. She wanted to give him the rope. Alana smiled. It was a terrifyingly pleasant smile. "I assure you, Captain," she said, her voice smooth. "I intend to be very observant today. You won't even know I'm here." Garrett rolled his eyes. "Just find your seat. 1A, I assume. Or did you bully someone out of that one, too?" 1A, Alana confirmed. "Right next to the cockpit," Garrett muttered, turning his back on her to enter the flight deck. "Lucky me." He slammed the cockpit door shut. Alana handed her jacket to Nancy, who was looking at her with a mixture of apology and embarrassment. "I'm sorry about him," Nancy whispered as she took the coat. He's a great pilot. Just a bit old school," Alana suggested. "That's one word for it," Nancy grimaced. "Can I get you a champagne before takeoff, to make up for the rough start?" "Water is fine, Nancy," Alana said, settling into the plush leather seat of 1A. She buckled her belt and looked at the closed cockpit door. She pulled out her phone and sent another message to the transition team. Subject: Arrival Protocol, London Heathrow. Do not send the standard car. I want the full board greeting committee on the tarmac. I want the media team present. And tell HR to have the termination papers for employee Navanahorson 92221 ready in the conference room upon landing. Alana leaned back and closed her eyes. It was an 8-hour flight to London. Captain Sterling had 8 hours left of his career. He just didn't know it yet. The fasten seatbelt sign chimed off as Flight 492 leveled off at 33,000 feet, cruising smoothly over the Atlantic. The cabin was quiet, save for the soft clinking of silverware and the low hum of the engines. In seat 1A, Alana Mercer was not sleeping. She had her laptop open, a privacy screen attached, scrolling through the financial audits of Stratton Airways Flight Operations Department. The numbers were bleeding red. High turnover rates among junior cabin crew. A spike in HR complaints that seemed to vanish into a black hole. Excessive overtime payments for senior captains. She was beginning to understand why. From her seat, she had a direct line of sight to the forward galley, the workspace for the flight attendants. It was separated from the cabin by a curtain, but the curtain was currently tied back. She watched Nancy, the purser, moving with a nervous, frantic energy. Nancy was a veteran. She moved with the muscle memory of 20 years in the sky, but her hands were shaking as she prepared the espresso machine for the cockpit. "Is it hot enough?" Sarah, the young flight attendant whom Garrett had snapped at earlier, whispered loudly. She was huddled in the corner of the galley, unwrapping silverware. Last time, he poured it down the sink because it wasn't scalding. "Just boil it twice, Sarah," Nancy hissed back, glancing at the cockpit door as if it were a bomb. "I don't want a lecture today, not with a full first-class cabin." Alana typed a note into her secure file. Crew morale, critical. Fear-based environment evident. The cockpit door buzzed. Nancy stiffened. She grabbed the tray with the coffee and a pristine white napkin. She punched the code to enter the flight deck. Through the briefly opened door, Alana heard Garrett's voice booming. "Don't care what dispatch said about the turbulence over Nova Scotia. I'm flying this bird, not some computer geek in a cubicle. We're staying at 330. The door clicked shut. Alana frowned. Disregarding turbulence reports wasn't just arrogant. It was a safety risk. It burned fuel to fight headwinds, and it risked injury to passengers. It was an ego decision, not a pilot decision. 10 minutes later, the intercom crackled to life. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Sterling from the flight deck." Garrett's voice filled the cabin. It was that smooth, practiced pilot voice designed to soothe. but Alana heard the underlying narcissism. We've got a smooth ride ahead, despite what the worrywarts on the ground predicted. We're making excellent time. I expect we'll be on the ground in London 20 minutes early. You're welcome. He didn't thank the crew. He didn't thank the co-pilot. I expect. You're welcome. Alana took a sip of her water. The man thought he was a god. The trouble started during the meal service. Sarah was serving the appetizer course, a delicate lobster salad. She reached across the aisle to serve the businessman in 1D, the one who had pitied Alana earlier. As she leaned, the aircraft hit a sudden, violent pocket of clear air turbulence. The plane jolted hard to the left. Sarah gasped, losing her footing. The tray in her hand tilted, and a glass of Chardonnay slid off, shattering on the aisle carpet. A splash of wine hit the businessman's sleeve. "Oh my God!" Sarah cried out, terrified. "Sir, I am so sorry." The businessman was gracious. "It's okay, it's just wine. The plane jumped. Are you okay?" But before Sarah could answer, the cockpit phone in the galley rang. It was a sharp, demanding ring. Nancy rushed to answer it. Alana paused her typing and listened. "Yes, Captain," Nancy said, her voice trembling. "Yes, we hit a bump. No one is hurt. It was just a glass." Sarah dropped a, "Yes, Captain, I understand. I'll handle it." Nancy hung up the phone, her face pale. She turned to Sarah, who was on her knees cleaning up the glass. "He wants a report," Nancy whispered. "He saw the vibration on the sensors. He said—" She lowered her voice, glancing at the passengers. "He said, clumsiness is a firing offense on my ship. He wants you in the jump seat for the rest of the flight. He doesn't want you serving." "But we have a full cabin," Sarah pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "You can't do the service alone, Nancy." "I don't have a choice," Nancy snapped, though she looked like she wanted to cry too. "If I disobey him, he'll write me up for insubordination. You know he's friends with the chief pilot. He'll bury us." Alana felt the heat rising in her neck. This was abuse, pure and simple. He was short-staffing the cabin to punish a junior employee for a weather event he had failed to avoid. Alana unbuckled her seatbelt. "Ms. Mercer, the seatbelt sign is on," Nancy said automatically, as Alana stood up. "I'm fine," Alana said. She walked to the galley. She didn't look like a confused passenger anymore. She stood with her feet planted apart, balancing effortlessly against the motion of the plane. "Nancy," Alana said quietly, "let Sarah finish the service." Nancy blinked. "Ma'am, I appreciate you trying to help, but this is an internal crew matter. Please return to your seat." "It's not an internal matter when it affects the service I paid for," Alana lied smoothly. "If you are one flight attendant down, my service will be slow. I don't want slow service. Let her work." Nancy looked torn. The captain ordered. "The captain is flying the plane," Alana said, her voice dropping to a whisper that cut through the engine noise. "He is not back here. He is not serving the lobster. Unless he plans to come out here and pour the wine himself, you are the manager of this cabin. Make a command decision, Nancy." Nancy looked at Alana. For a second, she seemed confused by the authority radiating from this woman in a hoodie. Then she took a deep breath. "Sarah," Nancy said, "go get a fresh towel for the gentleman in 1D, then finish the bread service." Sarah looked at Alana, eyes wide with gratitude, then scrambled to obey. Nancy looked at Alana. "He's going to check the logs, ma'am. He's going to know." "Let him check," Alana said, returning to her seat. "I have a feeling his logs are going to be very interesting reading for a lot of people." 4 hours into the flight, the cabin lights were dimmed to a soft blue. Most passengers were asleep. The businessman in 1D was snoring softly. Alana was still awake. She had moved on to the compensation strategy files. She sensed movement to her left. The cockpit door opened. A beam of bright light cut through the dark cabin. Captain Garrett Sterling emerged. He had removed his hat and jacket. He looked refreshed, stretching his arms above his head, rolling his shoulders. He walked into the galley, pouring himself a fresh water. He chatted with Nancy for a moment. Alana couldn't hear the words, but she saw his body language. It was aggressive, looming over her. Nancy was nodding rapidly, shrinking into the corner. Then Garrett turned to head toward the lavatory. On his way back, he stopped at row 1. He saw the light from Alana's screen. He paused. Alana didn't look up. She kept typing. "Still awake?" Garrett asked. His voice was lower, but it still carried that mocking edge. "Usually people in 1A are drinking champagne and passing out by now." Alana slowly stopped typing. She turned her head. "I have work to do." Garrett leaned against the bulkhead, crossing his arms. He looked down at her laptop screen, but the privacy filter prevented him from seeing the details. He just saw spreadsheets. "Work," he chuckled. "What is it? Heavy algebra homework? Or are you managing a TikTok account?" It was such a lazy, stereotypical insult that Alana almost laughed. He really couldn't conceive of a world where she was doing anything important. "Corporate restructuring," Alana said simply. Garrett raised an eyebrow. "Corporate restructuring. Sounds boring. Who do you work for?" "I'm in consulting," Alana said. It wasn't technically a lie. She was consulting herself. "We specialize in efficiency optimization for distressed companies." Garrett laughed. It was a bark of a laugh. "Distressed companies. You should come look at this airline. Stratton is a mess." Alana's heart skipped a beat. This was it. The honey trap. "Oh?" Alana swiveled her body slightly toward him. "I thought Stratton was the gold standard. Nice planes, good routes." "The planes are fine," Garrett said, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. He sat on the empty armrest of the aisle seat across from her, getting comfortable. He clearly was bored and wanted an audience. "The problem is the leadership. The board is weak. They let the unions run all over them." "Is that so?" Alana asked, her face perfectly neutral. "I noticed your crew seems stressed." "They're soft," Garrett scoffed. "Back in the day, flight attendants knew their place. Now, you look at them wrong, and they file a grievance, and the company backs them up. It's pathetic." He took a sip of water. "And don't get me started on the new ownership." "I heard there was a merger," Alana prodded gently. "New CEO." Garrett's face twisted into a sneer. "Yeah, some woman. Mercer, I think. Came from private equity." "You don't sound impressed," Alana said. "Impressed?" Garrett shook his head. "Honey, let me tell you how this works. They hired her for the optics. You know? Check a box. Black female CEO. Looks great on the diversity brochure. Keeps the shareholders happy." Alana felt a cold stillness settle over her. "You think she was hired just because she's black?" "I guarantee it," Garrett said with absolute confidence. "I've been in this industry for 30 years. Women like that. They don't know the first thing about aviation. She's probably never stepped foot in a cockpit. She's going to come in here with her spreadsheets and her inclusive culture memos, and she's going to run this place into the ground. But hey, at least the company looks progressive, right?" He laughed again, shaking his head. "I give her 6 months. Hopefully I'll be retired by the time she crashes the stock." Alana stared at him. She looked at every line in his face, every inch of his arrogance. She memorized this moment. "You really feel comfortable saying that?" Alana asked softly. "To a stranger? On your own plane?" Garrett shrugged, standing up. What are you going to do? Write a letter? I'm the senior captain on the Atlantic route. I'm untouchable. Besides, he looked her up and down again, his eyes lingering on her hoodie. Who would believe you? He winked. Get some sleep, sweetheart. Don't worry your pretty little head about corporate strategy. Leave the flying to the big boys. He turned and walked back to the cockpit. The door clicked shut, sealing him back in his tower. Alana sat in silence for a full minute. The rage was gone. It had been replaced by a cold, calculating resolve. She opened a new email draft. To Board of Directors, Stratton Airways. From Alana Mercer. CEO subject. Immediate termination of contract. Cause. Gross misconduct. She typed for 5 minutes. She detailed the boarding incident. She detailed the safety violation regarding turbulence. She detailed the harassment of the crew. And she transcribed, word for word, his comments about her appointment. She didn't hit send yet. She wanted to see his face when he found out. She minimized the email and opened the arrivals protocol she had requested earlier. The reply from her head of security had come in. Ms. Mercer, we have arranged the reception as requested. The chief of pilots, the HR director, and the press liaison will be at the gate. We have also flagged the aircraft for a security hold upon landing, meaning passengers cannot deplane until cleared. We await your signal. Alana smiled. She looked out the window. The sky was beginning to lighten on the horizon. They were approaching Ireland, 2 hours to London. Nancy, Alana called out softly as the purser walked by. Nancy stopped, looking weary. Yes, ma'am? Can I get you anything? Yes, Alana said. Do you have a pen and paper? I want to write a commendation for you and Sarah, for handling the turbulence so well. Nancy's eyes widened. She looked like she might cry. Really? You would do that? The captain said he was writing us up. Let me worry about the captain, Alana said. Just bring me the paper. As Nancy hurried away, Alana looked back at the cockpit door. You're right, Garrett, she thought. I'm going to bring my inclusive culture here, and it starts by excluding you. The descent into London Heathrow was textbook. The skies were grey and drizzly, typical for England in autumn, but the touchdown was so smooth it was barely perceptible. As the wheels kissed the tarmac, the reverse thrusters roared, a sound of power and finality. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to London. Garrett's voice came over the PA, sounding triumphant. We've landed 25 minutes ahead of schedule. We know you have a choice in airlines, and we thank you for choosing Stratton. The plane taxied toward Terminal 5. Alana packed her laptop. She took off her glasses and cleaned them slowly. She put her hoodie back on, pulling the strings just slightly. She wanted to look exactly as she had when he insulted her. The aircraft came to a halt at the gate. The seatbelt sign pinged off. Instantly, the cabin was a flurry of movement. Passengers stood up, opening overhead bins, eager to escape the metal tube. Folks, please remain seated. Garrett's voice cut in again, but this time he sounded confused. We have a slight delay. The jet bridge isn't connecting yet. Please sit down. A murmur of annoyance rippled through the cabin. Alana looked out her window. She could see why the jet bridge wasn't connecting. Below, on the tarmac, 3 black SUVs were parked in a formation near the nose of the plane. A group of people in high-visibility vests and suits were standing by the stairs. She recognized the tall, bald man in the center, Marcus Thorne, the chief of pilots for Stratton Airways. Beside him was Elena Rostova, the VP of Human Resources, and behind them, a camera crew from the airline's internal media team. Garrett must have been looking out his side window too, because the cockpit door flew open. He stormed out, his face a mask of irritation. He ignored the passengers. He went straight to Nancy at the galley door. What is going on? Garrett demanded. Why are there ops vehicles blocking my gate? Who are those people? I don't know, Captain, Nancy said, looking out the porthole. It looks like... Is that Chief Thorne? Thorne? Garrett's face went pale for a split second, then flushed red. What is he doing here? Did you call him? Did you report the turbulence? No, I swear! Nancy shrank back. Garrett ran a hand through his silver hair. Ridiculous. Probably a surprise inspection. Just what I need. He adjusted his tie and put his hat back on, angling it perfectly. All right. Open the main door. I'll go down and deal with them. Probably here to congratulate me on the early arrival time. He turned to the passengers in first class, flashing his charismatic smile. Apologies, everyone. VIPs on the tarmac. You know how it is. We'll have you off in a jiffy. He glanced at Alana in seat 1A. She was still sitting, her bag on her lap, watching him. Hope you enjoyed the ride, sweetheart, Garrett said, giving her one last condescending nod. Maybe next time try to smile more. It helps. He turned his back on her and waited for the main cabin door to open. The seal hissed. The heavy door swung outward. But instead of the jet bridge tunnel, there was a portable staircase attached to the side of the plane. The cool London air rushed in. Garrett stepped onto the platform at the top of the stairs, ready to wave to his fans below. Captain Sterling, a voice boomed from the bottom of the stairs. It was Marcus Thorne. He wasn't smiling. Chief, Garrett called down, starting to descend the stairs with a confident bounce. To what do I owe the pleasure? Did you see that landing? Greased it. Stay right there, Garrett, Thorne ordered. His voice was amplified, perhaps just by pure command, but it stopped Garrett halfway down the stairs. Garrett froze. Excuse me? We are not here for the landing, Thorne said. He gestured to the woman beside him. Director Rostova has some paperwork for you. Garrett laughed nervously. Paperwork? On the tarmac? Marcus, come on. Can't this wait until I get to the crew lounge? I have passengers waiting. Actually, a new voice spoke up. It came from behind Garrett. Garrett turned around. Alana Mercer was standing in the doorway of the plane, at the top of the stairs. She had stepped past the confused flight attendants. She stood tall, the wind whipping wisps of hair around her face, the grey hoodie stark against the white fuselage of the plane. The passengers can wait a moment, Alana said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried perfectly in the sudden silence. Garrett looked at her, then back down at Thorne, then back at her. His brow furrowed. You? What are you doing? Get back in your seat. This is a restricted area. No, Garrett, Alana said, taking a step onto the platform. It's not restricted for me. She looked down at the tarmac. Mr. Thorne, is the car ready? Marcus Thorne, the chief of pilots, the man Garrett claimed to be friends with, snapped to attention. He looked up at the woman in the hoodie and nodded respectfully. Yes, Ms. Mercer, the car is ready, and we have the documents you requested. Ms. Mercer. The name hung in the air like a thunderclap. Garrett's eyes widened. His brain tried to process the information, but it jammed. Mercer, the new CEO, the black woman from private equity. He looked at the hoodie. He looked at the face he had sneered at for 8 hours. Wait, Garrett stammered. The blood drained from his face so fast he looked like he might faint. You're... Alana Mercer, she finished for him. She took another step down the stairs so she was eye level with him. The diversity hire? The woman who is going to crash the stock? The one who doesn't know the first thing about aviation? She tilted her head. Did I get that right, Captain? Or did I miss a few insults? Garrett opened his mouth, but no sound came out. His hand started to shake. The arrogance that had armored him for 30 years shattered instantly, leaving him looking old and terrified. I "I didn't know," he whispered. "Miss Mercer, it was just hangar talk. I didn't mean—" "You didn't mean it?" Alana asked. "You didn't mean to humiliate a paying passenger at the gate? You didn't mean to threaten your flight crew with termination because of a weather event? You didn't mean to tell a stranger that your new boss is incompetent because of her race?" She gestured to the passengers who were now crowding the doorway, listening with rapt attention. She gestured to Nancy and Sarah, who were peeking out, their hands over their mouths in shock. "You meant every word, Garrett," Alana said coldly. "You just thought you were saying it to someone who couldn't hurt you." The tarmac was silent, except for the distant whine of other engines. Alana walked past Garrett, descending the stairs. She didn't look back at him. She walked straight to Marcus Thorne and Elena Rostova. "Ms. Mercer," Elena said, handing Alana a blue folder. "We have the separation agreement prepared as you instructed via email." Alana took the folder. She turned around. Garrett was still standing on the stairs, frozen, looking like a ghost. "Captain Sterling," Alana called out. "Come down here, please." Garrett walked down the stairs. His legs were stiff. He looked like a man walking to the gallows. When he reached the bottom, he couldn't meet her eyes. "Ms. Mercer, please," Garrett said, his voice cracking. "I have 30 years with this company. I'm the senior pilot. I can explain. I was having a bad day. I can apologize." "This isn't about an apology," Alana said. She opened the folder. "This is about culture. You told me earlier that I would run this company into the ground because I'm soft, because I care about inclusive culture." She pulled a pen from her pocket. "You were wrong, Garrett. Culture isn't about being soft. It's about standards. And my standard is that no one, not a passenger, not a flight attendant, and certainly not a CEO, gets treated the way you treated people today." She signed the document on the hood of the black SUV. The scratch of the pen was loud in the silence. She ripped the page out and held it toward him. "You are relieved of command, effective immediately," Alana said. "Your return ticket to Chicago has been booked. Economy class, middle seat, row 42. It leaves in 3 hours." Garrett stared at the paper. You're firing me for talking." "No," Alana said. She pointed up at the plane. "I'm firing you for short-staffing your cabin crew during a service flight to punish them. That is a safety violation. I'm firing you for insubordination. And yes, I am firing you for creating a hostile work environment." She shoved the paper into his chest. He instinctively grabbed it. "Hand over your badge," Alana said. Garrett looked at Marcus Thorne, pleading with his eyes. "Marcus, you're going to let her do this?" Marcus Thorne looked at Garrett with disgust. "You embarrass the uniform, Garrett. Give her the badge." Slowly, with trembling fingers, Garrett unpinned the wings from his chest. He took the ID card from his lanyard. He handed them to Alana. Alana took them. She handed them to Elena. "Escort Mr. Sterling to the terminal," Alana said to the security team. "Ensure he does not enter the crew lounge." 2 security guards stepped forward, flanking Garrett. "This is a mistake!" Garrett shouted as they led him away, finding a sudden burst of desperate anger. "You can't do this! Do you know who I am?" Alana watched him go. "Yes," she said softly. "I know exactly who you are. You're a liability." She turned back to the plane. The passengers in the doorway burst into applause. It started slow, then grew louder. The businessman in 1D was clapping the hardest. Nancy and Sarah were standing at the top of the stairs, tears streaming down their faces. Alana walked back up the stairs. She stopped in front of Nancy. "Nancy," Alana said. "Yes, Ms. Mercer?" Nancy wiped her eyes. "I need a new senior captain for the return leg," Alana said. "And I believe you have a recommendation for a chief purser who can handle the pressure." Nancy smiled, a genuine beaming smile. "Yes, Mum, I do." "Good." Alana looked at Sarah. "And Sarah?" "Yes." "Ms. Mercer," Sarah squeaked. "I'm sorry about the way you were treated," Alana said gently. "Take the next 2 days off in London on the company tab. Go see a show. Relax." Sarah nodded vigorously, unable to speak. Alana turned to the passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the drama. Please proceed to the terminal. Our ground staff will assist you with your connections. Thank you for flying, Stratton." She stepped aside, and as the passengers filed past her, almost every single one of them stopped to shake her hand or say, "Thank you." The businessman in 1D stopped. "That," he said, "was the best in-flight entertainment I have ever seen." Alana smiled. "We aim to please." 6 months had passed since the tarmac incident, as it came to be known within the halls of Stratton Airways. The story had never leaked to the press in its entirety. Alana Mercer was too professional for that. She didn't want the airline's reputation stained by one rogue captain. Instead, the official press release simply stated that Captain Garrett Sterling had departed the company to pursue other opportunities. But in the aviation world, rumors fly faster than sound. Everyone knew. From the baggage handlers in Dubai to the air traffic controllers in New York, the legend of the hoodie CEO had become a cautionary tale for the arrogant and a rallying cry for the overlooked. On a rainy Tuesday in November, Alana stood on the balcony of the Stratton Airways headquarters in Chicago. The glass office she had once avoided was now hers, but she rarely spent time behind the desk. "Ms. Mercer?" Alana turned. It was Sarah. The young flight attendant was no longer trembling in a galley corner. She was wearing a crisp, new uniform with the stripes of a senior purser. She held a tablet with confidence. "The Q3 audit reports are in," Sarah said, smiling. "Customer satisfaction is up 18%. Crew retention is at an all-time high. And the Sterling Protocol, the new anonymous reporting system for crew abuse, has reduced internal grievances by 60%. Alana took the tablet. "Thank you, Sarah. You've done excellent work leading the transition team." "It's easy when you're not afraid to come to work," Sarah said. She hesitated, then added, "Nancy sends her regards from Rome. She's loving the Rome-New York route. She said she finally enjoys coffee again." Alana chuckled. "I'm glad to hear it." The culture at Stratton had shifted tectonically. The fear was gone. The sky gods, who thought they could rule by intimidation, had either adapted or they had been quietly managed out. The airline was profitable, yes, but more importantly, it was functional. Alana walked back to her desk. On it lay a glossy aviation magazine. The cover featured her face, not in a hoodie this time, but in a sharp navy blazer. The headline read, "Turbulence Cleared. How Alana Mercer Saved Stratton Airways from Itself." She looked at the magazine, but her mind drifted to Garrett Sterling. She hadn't heard from him directly. She knew he had sued for wrongful termination, a frivolous lawsuit that her legal team had dismantled in under 20 minutes by playing the cockpit voice recording of his diversity hire rant. After that, he had vanished. She wondered briefly if he had learned anything. 3,000 miles away, in a drafty crew break room at a regional airport in North Dakota, a man sat eating a vending machine sandwich. Garrett Sterling looked 10 years older. His silver hair was thinning, and the deep Caribbean tan had faded to a pale, tired grey. He wasn't wearing a double-breasted jacket with gold stripes. He was wearing a windbreaker with the logo of Swift Haul Logistics, a budget cargo carrier that flew overnight routes, carrying auto parts and frozen fish. There were no first-class passengers here. There was no espresso machine. There was no purser to bully. There was just him, a co-pilot who was 22 years old and wouldn't stop chewing gum, and a cargo hold full of boxes that didn't care about his ego. Garrett took a bite of the stale sandwich and looked at the TV mounted in the corner of the break room. The news was playing a segment on the airline industry. And in financial news, Stratton Airways stock hit a record high today, the anchor announced. CEO Alana Mercer credits the success to a radical shift in company culture that prioritizes employee well-being alongside passenger comfort. The screen cut to a clip of Alana. She looked radiant, powerful, and calm. "We learned that leadership isn't about the stripes on your shoulder," Alana said to the camera. "It's about the respect you show to the people who help you fly." Garrett stopped chewing. The young co-pilot next to him looked up from his phone. "Hey, Captain, isn't that the airline you used to fly for? Stratton?" Garrett stared at the screen. He stared at the woman he had called a diversity hire. He remembered the look on her face on the tarmac, not of anger, but of pity. He realized now that she hadn't ruined his life. She had simply held up a mirror, and he hadn't been able to survive the reflection. "Yeah," Garrett muttered, his voice raspy. "I used to fly for them." "Why'd you leave?" the kid asked, popping a bubble with his gum. "They pay way better than this dump." Garrett looked down at his plastic-wrapped sandwich. He thought about lying. He thought about spinning a story about how he quit because of politics or management. That had been his story for 6 months. But today, looking at Alana's success, the lie tasted like ash in his mouth. "I didn't leave," Garrett said softly. "I got fired." The kid looked surprised. "For what?" Garrett looked at the TV one last time before the segment ended. "For thinking I was too important to be kind," Garrett said. He crumbled the sandwich wrapper, stood up, and picked up his flight bag. It was time to fly a load of frozen cod to Winnipeg. "Let's go," Garrett said. "We have a schedule to keep." He walked out into the cold, finally understanding that in the sky, just like on the ground, gravity eventually claims everyone. The flight of Captain Garrett Sterling serves as a stark reminder that altitude is not the same as stature. He spent a career climbing to 35,000 feet, believing that his position placed him above basic human decency. He mistook fear for respect and silence for agreement. Alana Mercer didn't just fix an airline, she dismantled a delusion. She proved that true power doesn't need to shout, it doesn't need to cut in line, and it certainly doesn't need to demean others to feel tall. In the end, Garrett got exactly what he wanted. A world where only skill mattered, stripped of all the soft niceties he despised. And in that cold, lonely world of cargo logistics, he learned the hardest lesson of all. The higher you climb with an ego that heavy, the harder you fall when the engine finally stalls. And that is the story of how one arrogant pilot learned that the random passenger in the hoodie might just be the person signing his paycheck. It's a powerful reminder to treat everyone with respect, not because of who they might be, but because of who you should be. You never know when the person you're looking down on is actually the one holding the keys to your future. If you enjoyed this story of karma and justice, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel soar. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new story. Question for you guys. Have you ever been underestimated by someone based on how you looked or dressed? Tell me your story in the comments below. I read every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.